Resident Evil 2 Remake ships over 4 million copies. Devil May Cry 5 sells over 2 million and becomes the fastest selling DMC game ever, and Monster Hunter World sells 11.9 million copies, nearly 12 million to become the best selling Capcom game ever. In case you haven't heard, Capcom is back. So how did one of Japan's biggest publishers, who had become synonymous with missing sales forecasts and making games that their fan base didn't necessarily love, get back on the right track? Well, I wanted to highlight 3 major changes and steps that I feel helped get them on the right path. Now, in no way are these 3 things the only thing that led to their resurgence, but these are takeaways that I feel really stand out. So my first major takeaway is to embrace their roots and their IP's core appeal. I feel like it's safe to say that the first sign Capcom were moving in the right direction was with the launch of Resident Evil 7. The game returned to its more horror roots and felt like a night and day difference compared to the more action-heavy recent entries in the franchise, Resident Evil 5 and 6. Same can be said for Resident Evil 2 Remake, which is a faithful adaptation of one of the most beloved games in the franchise. The key here isn't that Capcom played things way too safe, way too conservative, and just made rehashes. Resident Evil 7 took a risk when it went to that first-person perspective and introduced VR support. Same can be said of Resident Evil 2 Remake. It isn't just a reskin with better graphics, but a full-on remake with changes to gameplay, story, and pacing. Devil May Cry 5 is a full-fledged sequel to the older DMC games instead of a sequel to the somewhat controversial Ninja Theory entry, which I like that game by the way, and feels like a true continuation of the characters and story that the fanbase has come to love. A full-fledged old-school DMC game reborn for modern consoles. I'd also like to note that the Mega Man Classic Collections and Mega Man 11 have been noted by Capcom as being strong sellers. Main key is that Capcom looked at their franchises and focused on what made these IP beloved in the first place. Instead of chasing market trends and turning Resident Evil into some sort of online co-op loot shooter, they made strong single-player entries. Instead of turning DMC into an open-world grind-a-thon, they made a focused, linear character action game. To put it simply, they gave fans exactly what they've been asking for. Shocking, right? Now, for the second step, focus on a truly worldwide audience. Monster Hunter has always been a franchise that did absolutely incredible numbers in Japan, but struggled to make any sort of noteworthy impact in the West. It's easy to forget now that Monster Hunter World has sold nearly 12 million copies, but taking the franchise off of handhelds and instead putting Monster Hunter World on PS4 and Xbox One and PC was on the surface a huge risk. The home console market isn't as vibrant in Japan as it is in the West, and what if Western audiences didn't respond? Would Japan sales slip not releasing on a portable platform? Well, it turns out Capcom was able to have their cake and eat it too. The game skyrocketed in the West, easily destroying any other Monster Hunter game in sales, and also performed excellent in Japan. In the end, the risk absolutely paid off. I'd also like to note Capcom's improved PC support. Games like DMC 5 and Resident Evil 2 were ready right at launch and now are among the best-selling games on the platform for 2019 so far. Yes, Monster Hunter World was delayed on PC, which is unfortunate, but the fact that franchise came at all is reassuring. Capcom simply need to continue making their franchises appeal to both their domestic audience in Japan as well as the West, and not overly pursue trends that favor one market or the other. That's a mistake I feel they made last generation. Which brings us to our third and final note I'd like to point out, the RE or Resident Evil engine. Now you may be thinking, Benji, how can an engine really have that much of an impact on a business? Honestly, it can have a giant impact as it's a huge part in both the quality of a game that's released as well as the pace that it can be developed. A bad or poorly optimized engine can cause serious studio woes and development hurdles. Some recent examples of that are Bungie struggles with their engine for Destiny, and some of the EA studios having a difficult time adjusting to Frostbite. The RE engine is clearly, in my opinion, one of the absolute best engines in the industry. Games can target 60 frames per second, oftentimes with amazing cutting-edge visuals. And considering just how high quality games developed on the engine have been, I think it's safe to say that Capcom's development teams aren't facing serious struggles utilizing it. At the end of the day, a good engine makes making games easier and gives teams more time to focus on delivering the experience that they want to create instead of spending their time battling technical issues. And that, everyone, is my main points, my main takeaways for 3 steps that Capcom used to help turn their business around. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, these aren't the only things. There's a ton of other stuff, and no business is perfect. There's still more I would like to see them do in regards to the games that they have in the fighting genre. There are still some struggles there, as we saw with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite not selling well at all. And I think they could do a little bit better still with some Switch support. Hopefully there's more of that coming, as the console is doing incredibly in both Japan and the West. I am Benji-Sales, and thank you everyone for watching this video. If you like it, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And the best way to get a hold of me is going to be on Twitter at Benji-Sales. If you ever want to talk to me about anything in the industry, ask me any questions, any suggestions for either my YouTube or my Twitter that I talk about, make sure to follow me there, and I will chat with you. Thanks again, everyone. See you next time in the next video.